Larry Bailey.
Here.
John Dooley.
Here.
Deborah Potter.
Here.
Kevin Whipple.
Here.
Bill Ernstis.
Present. Okay, any changes or additions need to be added to the minutes? The only thing I have on it, I'm going to add under comments, I'm going to ask the mayor to say a few things for us.
For the agenda?
Yeah.
Where do you want to put them?
Under comments from the board or audience.
Okay.
It'll be about the airport, so. Approval?
I make a motion we amend the agenda to allow the mayor to speak.
Probably don't have to amend it since that's just an open comment section, right? Whatever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes? Do you see any additions or corrections that need to be added to the minutes? If not, I'll accept the motion to accept.
I'll move we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
John, financial report, please.
Financial report for the Greensburg Municipal Airport. We have the three accounts. In our airport improvement account, the current balance, $263,548.78. In the aviation rotary fuel account, $72,484.35. In airport operations, $392,488.05. The total of all three accounts combined, $728,521.18.
I would like to thank the mayor for changing our meeting date. It makes it much better. We finish the month out, it comes out instead of having to go back and like we used to make up the differences. Any comments on the finances? All right. Update of construction, Mr. Shaffer.
Good evening. The construction's been a little slow to start. April has been wet. We did start the clock running again April 1st. So they've put some equipment back out there. You'll notice two large off-road trucks and some bulldozers and so forth. They have worked over the last couple of weeks, but it's been pretty slow going. They have a dozer out trying to clean up some of the erosion from over the winter and just trying to help facilitate some of the parts that were holding water, getting those drained so they can get out there and start working as soon as the site is dry enough. It was pretty dry on the high spots today, so even with the rain we're getting, the high spots are pretty dry. The basins all are still really wet with a lot of silt, so it's going to be some time before they can get back down in the bottom of the basins to keep working. So right now they have not requested any additional days. The substantial completion date is supposed to be the last week of May, but with the April weather, we anticipate that will be pushed out. So that's the update on the construction. The Narwhal field was repaired with the topsoil. We still need to install the riprap and finish repairing the field tile. That'll ultimately permanently fix that. But that area was too wet to get the riprap in and the pipe repaired just yet. But we did get the topsoil in there and leveled out so they can go ahead and start working that field.
Oh, you referred to what, Dennis Dickman's area? Is that?
Yeah, so Dickman farms it, Narwhal owns it.
Got it.
Okay. You know, has Dennis been down to see it? Is he satisfied with it, or?
I don't know for sure, Bill. I asked, John to notify him. I'm not sure if he's come by and looked at it yet.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on to new business.
Okay. New business, we've got quite a bit on the agenda this evening, and I put the best one on first, which is we got, since you met last, we got another $3,085,853 towards the project. So congratulations on that next grant. This was an FAA supplemental grant. Also, the good news on that grant is it's 100% Fed funds, so there's no match on this grant either. So that's quite a substantial savings to the community. So the FAA response time to sign that and turn it in was not long enough to come to this meeting. So Bill and Don Tribbett have already executed that and sent it back, but we'd like the board to acknowledge receipt of that and that you're all in agreement of accepting the $3 million for the project. So.
I'd like to move that we accept that and agree to that, although it's already done, so.
Second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, with that, that allows us then to issue a notice of award and execute the construction contracts with Dave America Contractors for runway 119 and the paving and lighting phase. So we will issue the full bid amount, which was $5,137,000 even, but we'll only issue a partial notice to proceed at this point in time for $2,869,525.96. And what that partial notice to proceed will accomplish is all the electrical items. And the reason we want to put the electrical on the front end is because they're the most volatile price-wise. So this will allow them to lock in their price on that electrical equipment. It also has the longest lead time. So it will probably take at least 3 months to even get the electrical equipment here to the site. So by issuing that and the first part will lock down the electrical. The remaining work would be the soil stabilization. After HIS is done, the center portion of the runway will still need a little bit of earthwork done, but you don't want to do it too far in advance of when the pavement's going to go on, because you don't want it to get rained on and things too much. So they'll do the soil stabilization, which is basically the top 16 inches right below the pavement surface will get worked in with a chemical treatment lime or cement, depending on what the borrowed material looks like. We'll use the best material that's suited there. They'll install all the electrical conduits around the perimeter of where the runway footprint would go in, and they'll put the aggregate base in for the paving to go on. So that's it'll also pay for the tree trimming that goes on the south end, and then on the north end, assuming we have that navigation easement to a place where we can trim. And it also pays for the REMC connection, the electrical connections to the new electrical pole that will power the new runway. So that's what that first chunk of money will pay for. The remaining balance that should come by October 1st. You are on the FAA discretionary list, and you are one of a few projects in Indiana in the general aviation world that are expected to get money. So we expect to have the rest of the money by October 1st that will finish it out, which would finish the aggregate base, put the asphalt down, and paint the markings on the runway, and then we should be ready to open. So, and not by October. The money will come by October. It's going to take a little time to pave it and put the markings down. Depending on how the temperatures go, that paving may not be able to happen until spring. It really kind of depends on how long HIS is on site before Dave America can get in and start stabilizing the base for the pavement. So, but anyway, that's kind of the plan here. We'll award the whole contract to Amera, but we're only issuing that first partial notice of proceed that's paid for with this recent supplemental that you just received. So if you don't have any questions on that, the motion would be to approve that Dave Amera contract.
Make a motion to approve the Dave America contract.
I second.
Roll call vote, please.
Gary Bailey,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Armstrong.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, so that's the exciting fun stuff. The other three remaining items are cleanup items. The next one is AIP 16, which is for pay application number 13 in the amount of $66,439.36. That's 100% Fed funds. You'll notice the next motion down has a $61,000 bill to HIS in that. This is the FA portion to request those funds to cover the HIS bill, plus our inspection fees for basically the whole winter. That's what was charged there, the remaining $5,000 there. So motion 3, if you don't have any questions on that, is AIP partial pay request number 13, the amount of $66,439.36.
I make a motion, we issue the partial pay request application 13 in the amount of $66,439.36.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Gary Bailey,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Armstrong.
Yes.
Okay, and the next item is the corresponding contractor's progress estimate. Number 9 for HIS constructors in the amount of $61,619.36.
Make a motion to approve the contractor's progress report estimate number 9 in the amount of $61,619.36.
Second.
Roll call, Judy.
Gary Bailey,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Armstrong.
Yes.
Okay, and the 5th motion here, action item, is for AIP 20, and that is the new grant you just received. It's pay application number 1, and it's for $40,170.57. And this is to reimburse you for costs that you already incurred along the design process, administrative fees, the surveying fees, and then the bidding phase was not covered under the original design grant because they start reimbursing bidding under construction now to make sure it's actually going to be constructed. So those are just recouping costs you've already incurred. It'll put that $40,000 back in your bank account.
Make a motion to submit AIP 20 partial pay request, application number 1 in the amount of $40,170.57.
I'll second.
Roll call, Judy.
Gary Bailey,
Yes.
John Dooley,
Yes.
Deborah Potter,
Yes.
Kevin Whipple,
Yes.
Bill Armstrong.
Yes.
Okay, I think we've covered everything on the runway, pit grade and drain, runway paving and lighting. The bipartisan infrastructure bill, we did submit out the paperwork prior to March 4th, like the NDOT and FAA wanted. We're still waiting on exactly the time frame of when that money will come. But that $159,000 that you're scheduled to get, we have went ahead and committed that to the runway project to try to keep things going. So that'll fund runway pieces and parts whenever it does come, but we don't know exactly when that will come. The last item here, do you want me to talk about this now, Bill? The item 4 on my...
Yes.
Okay. So we had a meeting with Lowe's Pellet and Grain this afternoon to talk about a potential expansion that the Lowe's folks would like to do. And, being at the near the end of the runway, they wanted to make sure that they were a good neighbor to the airport and coordinated those heights with us. So, which is a very positive thing. We went through that proposal. Very similar to the existing silos, the expansion that they want is going to be a penetration to Part 77 surfaces in the transitional surface in the side. But we believe, based on some further due diligence that I've done, that we can get it approved, similar to the existing structures, as long as we put a red light on the top. And it should not change the approach minimums to the new runway. So I think we're in a good spot with this project in Lowe's, and it was a very positive meeting. One thing that would be very helpful for the airport's future planning, and as we proceed towards an navigation easement purchase with Lowe's in the future, what I'd like to recommend the board do is to hire a third-party consultant to do an airspace study over the Lowe's parcel. And what the airspace study will do is it will model what the FAA looks at when they write the instrument approaches to the end of the runway. Those rules are different than the federal law, Part 77. And the reason they are is Part 77 is, for all purposes, a notification surface. So if something gets built in those surfaces, the FAA wants to know about it and needs to know about it. It doesn't mean that you can't build it in there. It just means that it's close enough to the airport, and it's close enough to where the airplanes will fly. To proceed forward, you're really going to need to study it further. So this study is something that we cannot do internally because you have to have access to FAA data that's in their system. So there's only a handful of consultants that can actually do this work because they're usually staff augments to the FAA themselves. In other words, they're contract employees to FAA, but they also are allowed to do this kind of work on the side. So we've worked with a company in the past called PY Aviation. He's actually an FAA contract employee, but he has helped us model instrument approaches at other airports in the past. What we believe is this study will be critical to the appraisers when we go to establish value of the airspace. And so we weren't planning on doing this until 2024 because at the time when we set the schedule for navigation easements, we didn't believe they had an expansion that was pending. But now that the expansion is pending, it becomes more important that the airport understand that airspace better. And there's not really an expiration date on that as long as the federal rules don't change and the airport doesn't change its runway orientation or so forth. So I expect the shelf life on that will be through 2024 when we do want to do the appraisal. So we're not really committing to do the appraisal right now or even purchase the navigation easement right now. All we're going to do is hire a third party to study that airspace so that we can understand in more detail what the future impact would be. I've gotten an estimate from that consultant that wouldn't exceed $5,000 to do that entire study over that parcel. So with the meeting today, I think time is of the essence on their project, and since we need to accomplish this study anyway down the road, I would go ahead and ask the board to allow us to proceed with contracting with PY Aviation to do the study today. Happy to answer questions.
I make a motion that we allow you to go ahead and contract with PUI and get the study going.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass. Okay.
Okay. I believe that's everything that I have.
I've got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
If they do the soil, the 16 inches with the lime and whatever, and the gravel on top, does that hinder it any if we don't get the blacktop on it within the year and it has to go over the winter?
No, actually, that's the reason we want to put the stone on there, is so that it would winter okay if we needed it to.
Okay.
Yeah. There will be, if it has to winter with just stone on there, there'll be some touch up the stone. And actually, we're only asking to put half the stone on right now. And then in the springtime, they put the other half on and
Okay.
compact it so that, they can touch it up and rework it in the springtime without an additional fee.
Okay. All right. Next, Mr. Tribbett.
Good evening. exciting, really, to receive that $3 million plus grant, and I was pleased to be able to sign it for you. So, and with their short timeline, which the FAA too often, in my opinion, does, you really didn't have a whole lot of time to wait around for a board meeting. So I'm glad the board was able to ratify that this evening. With regard to the Goddard Family LLC property, I met with Phil Goddard today, and we got everything signed. So the deed will be going to the recorder's office and the auditor's office, and we'll get the deed recorded. And upon the completion of that, I'll be filing a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. We also had, I can't remember last meeting, I don't think I had, of course, Gary, you weren't here anyway, but I don't think the last meeting that we had the Sturchy deed recorded. It has since been recorded, and so I filed a motion to dismiss the Sturchy litigation, and the judge has signed the order dismissing the Sturchy litigation. So you're done with that. With regard to the aviation easement that is required over the Steve Lowe property, that's just adjacent to Lowe Pellet. We now have our appraisal, and I had sent that out. The appraisal amount is $36,680 for the value of the aviation easement. And I think that's a little higher than it might normally have been, but there are some trees there that are probably going to end up and be cut enough that they're not going to live. And so I think the appraiser pretty much figured those as the entire value of the trees, and so that's the reason for that figure. So on that particular item, what I'm asking for this evening is the board to pass a motion authorizing me to make a uniform offer for purchase of that aviation easement. If there are any questions on that, I'll be glad to answer those. I did present Bill with a original of the appraisal, so you now have that for airport files. So,
Make a motion that we approve the, for Ms. Tribbett to make the offer of that navigation easement in the Lowe's property.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
I also had sent Bill, I assume it's on your list tonight for bills to be paid, the appraiser's fees for those aviation easements, so, okay. Then with regard, I reported at your last meeting in April regarding some discussions, some negotiations that had been ongoing with regard to resolution of the Beggs and Haston litigation. And their counsel has been out of his office for a good bit lately. So we played some phone tag. We agreed, I think we didn't have any motion, no action, formal action was taken, but I think everybody agreed last month that we needed some clarification on some of the things that had been suggested. But in as much as he was out of the country for about the first 2 weeks there, we played phone tag since, I haven't been able to get any clarification on that. So hopefully by next board meeting, we'll be in a position to maybe consider further what we've been negotiating. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Scheinberg.
Bill, could I just bring up a point? We had John Clare on here for a project inspector.
He's not here, Paul took his place.
Paul, okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They look about right.
Well, I really don't have anything new. It's been business as usual at the airport. Unless somebody's got any questions, I really don't have anything new to tell you.
Hangar's still full?
Hangars are all full. We still got a waiting list, 3 or 4 names right now. So, okay.
All right, next approval of bills. Everybody have a chance to look at them?
You'll notice on the bills, a couple of things. They did list for 2 months in a row. They listed at the very bottom of the spreadsheet that I make out on my own. they listed the Sturgis property last month and this month, so I presume we're not gonna pay them twice. So, but I wrote it there because they listed in our bills for this month. Other thing up at the top, you see general liability, and it's the same amount as it was if you look to the left there on May 2021, and it's, I usually go back out 13, 14 months so you can see how it was before, but that amount's the same, so. Only thing that looked a little out of sorts was the, having Sturgis on there 2 months in a row.
Make a motion, we agree to the bills as submitted with the exception we don't pay Sturgis twice.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Your Honor.
Good evening, everyone. So one thing I wanted to sort of put on your radar going forward, there is an application, I believe, into the FAA for a terminal money, but that's a long ways away, right? 27, 8, 6? It's a long ways away. Point being, that's not a guaranteed award, obviously, beyond the scope of the construction project going on now. We may want to put some thought into how do we maybe make some small, maybe more than anything, cosmetic improvements to the terminal that's out there now, so that when we do open the runway next year, we have something that's a little bit more refreshed and modernized in some different capacities. So I wanted to present that to you as something to be thinking about. You know, I know, John, you look through the budget all the time. How do we maybe put that in the budget for either next year or look at something for later this year as just on the radar, heads up, may want to think about a couple improvements out there.
Do you have anything specific? There's lots of things that can be done. Anything specific comes to mind that you would look at?
The only thing that, not as a pilot, right, just simply as somebody who would probably maybe visit, I think there could be some maybe improvements to more of a cosmetic than anything. I don't want us to get into spending a ton of money if we're applying for money elsewhere, but just to, you know, and not, if we're going to welcome business jets, maybe a little bit more of a business styling. I mean, that's all I'm talking about.
Sure.
Some paint and carpet,
Yeah.
a desk, furniture, something like that, because I think there's already Wi-Fi and
There is.
access, and there's a restroom, obviously, things like that already exist. So was there something in particular you had in mind, or?
No, I just wondered if something you had in mind in particular. There's certainly things we can do to spiff it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that may be just as helpful as anything as a front door to the community.
I thought maybe we might paint some lines outside that says Concourse A and Concourse B. And
Right. Gate 1 and 2,
yeah.
both to the left. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you all.
Anybody else want to say anything from the audience or the board? If not, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll motion we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. See you next month.